Hey everybody, welcome back. Charlie Stevens here. I'm going to teach you some more guitar today. Okay, so in this series we've learned where the notes are on our first three strings so far. The first, the second, and the third string. Okay, so now that we have three strings, we can start learning about chords. So chords are a very important part about guitar playing, and what most players spend most of their time playing chords. So a very general definition of a chord is when we strike more than one string at a time. Okay, and this can be different numbers of strings. It usually means more than two. We have a different word for a type of chord that only has two notes in it. We usually don't even call it a chord, we call it a interval. And we'll learn more about what intervals are as we kind of get down the road here. But a two-note chord could be considered a chord. We would call that a dyad. But the most common type of chord is called a triad. Okay? And we'll get into the theory behind triads and how to construct them, and we'll kind of dive into a lot of that at another time. But for right now, we're just going to be content to know that when we strum the three strings we've learned so far, we can make a chord from those three strings. Okay? And there's actually a really easy chord we can get called the C chord. Okay, we can use this with just one finger. We can get this chord here. So a triad is three notes. We're going to use all three of these notes. We're going to use the open G string. Okay, we're going to use our second string as well, but we're going to use the note C, not the open string, which is B. We're going to have to fret this on the first fret, the note C. Okay, and then our E string, we're going to play that one as well, but it's also going to be open. So we only need one finger for this, and it's going to be right here on the first fret of the second string. Okay, so you can, if you're using a pick, you can start at the third string, squeeze this one down and play all three of them, maybe one at a time to make sure you can hear each one of them. Okay, this is a little bit tricky because if I am not careful about which part of my finger I use, I might mute one of the other strings. So I really want to be using the very tip of the finger here. And if I'm using maybe too much of the side, then it might actually touch the next string. And here, that one's not very clear, that high E, but that's because I'm touching with the wrong part of my finger. But if I stand that finger up a little taller, so just the tip is touching on the second string, now it's out of the way of the first string, and you can hear that one, and we can hear all three. Okay, so we're not going to play any of these three strings yet. This is sort of like a beginner C chord. Typically we'll play a C chord, and we actually will use a few more of these strings, and it'll look a little like this. Okay, and we'll learn that one shortly here. But for now, we're just going to focus on this little one. And this is a legitimate kind of chord shape. We'll learn about this when we get into triads and how to find all the different types of triads on all our different string sets. This one is definitely an important shape. So it's not just thought of as a beginner thing, but it sort of is. As you progress in your guitar playing, when you play a C chord, most of the time it'll probably look more like this than this little one we're learning. But I wanted to show you a nice easy one that uses all the notes we've learned so far. Okay? C. Now if you're not using your pick and you're using your fingers, you can use the thumb to play the third string, this one to play the second string, and this one to play the first string, and you can pluck them all at the same time. That's kind of easy because if I use my pick, I have to be careful not to hit these three over here, these three bass strings, and start on the third string. But if I'm using my fingers, I don't have to be as careful. I can just grab those three strings and pinch them all together like that, or I can play them one by one like this. Okay, so that's a C chord. In this case, we're playing G, C, and high E. Okay, the notes of a C chord would be C, E, G. But once we have the notes in our chord, we can rearrange them in other ways. So that's what this is. This is called an inversion of the triad because it's not in the order that it would normally go, in which we call root position. But that's a topic for another day where we'll talk about triad construction and inversions and how to invert triads. So this is actually called C major in second inversion. But you don't need to worry about that right now. What you need to know is that this is a one finger version of C on the upper strings, the third, second, and first strings, and we take that second string, make it a half step higher by using our first finger to play the first fret. And there you go. You have your first chord, the C chord. Okay, well, thank you so much for watching that lesson on the C chord. I hope you enjoyed it. Please like and subscribe to the channel, and I look forward to seeing you in the next lesson. Thanks a lot.